and welcome mindsetters to this session of Spring School. We're looking at accounting today. I'm Ty and I've got Ashraf here who's going to be taking us to today's session. Ashraf, what are we looking towards today?
Today we're looking at inventory valuation and we're looking at manufacturing accounts.
All right. Okay, so I think that's going to be quite a jam-packed session.
I think so too. It's going to be enjoyable, I hope.
All right, no problem. So while you make your way across the board, I'm going to tell the mindsetters what they need to do. Mindsetters, you need to make sure that you get on the page because, yes, with Spring School comes awesome giveaways. So I can't give these away if you don't participate in the competition, you know, kind of simple maths. But anyway, yes, I have these awesome CD hampers to give away and these awesome books and this awesome Mindsetters t-shirt. So make sure you guys post so you can win this awesome stuff so you can match with us, you know what I'm saying, so you can walk around school and be like, yeah, I got a Mindsetter t-shirt, I'm cool. Yes, so Mindsetters, you know what to do. You need to make sure that you get to the events page. Look up the Spring Schools tab and make sure you post your answer under the challenge question that's going to be posted there, which we're going to go through just now. Remember, do not forget your code. I'm also going to be posting up the other ways you can enter because you can also enter by emailing win@learnextra. Write that down, win@learnextra.co.za. And you can also enter by SMS. You SMS 083-448-8810. Write that down, 083-448-8810. Then you can obviously also enter on pep text. So make sure you remember that code. So on that note, we're going to go through the challenge question quickly. So Ashraf, show them what we're doing.
Well, guys, here's your challenge question for today. It says, which method of stock valuation requires you to base your calculations on the value of the most recent stock purchased and to ignore the value of old stock that has been sold? And your three options are, option A is weighted average, option B is first in, first out, FIFO, and option C is LIFO, or last in, first out.
All right. So Mindsetters, you now know what the challenge question is. So make sure you get to the page, the events page. Remember, events page. I'll be posting up the links. So make sure you guys enter. And we'll go through that challenge question in the last segment of the show. But for now, you guys need to pay attention, pens and pads out, and get ready to make notes. On that note, Ashraf, take it away.
Thank you very much, Ty. Well, grade 12s. The question is on inventory valuation. Now, before I actually go into the question, there are certain things that I need to bring to your attention. Number one, when we talk about stock systems, we are referring to, yes, perpetual method, continuous method of recording stock, and the periodic inventory system. Those are stock systems, right? And then, when we talk stock valuation, we are now talking weighted average, we are talking specific identification method, and we are talking FIFO. So clearly in your minds, you must know exactly what the question is talking about and what are we referring to. So therefore, let's get right into our question. The question says, you are provided with information in respect of Jora shoes. Now remember this, what is important and what do I always emphasize? Watch this. RTFQ. Aha. What am I saying? I'm saying that whenever you're attempting a question, very important, read the full question. And sometimes, when a person is angry, they may use an expletive, but we're not going to do that. We'll stick with read the full question. Okay. Now, what does the question expect of us? It tells us that the business sells one type of shoe, right? Important information. One type of shoe. It also tells us that the business uses the periodic inventory system. Remember what I alluded to earlier on? The periodic inventory system. And what method of stock valuation are we referring to? They're using the weighted average method of valuing stock. Does that fit in exactly to what I've told you? Stock system, stock valuation. Clear? Great, guys. Let's carry on. The first part of your question says that you have to now go and calculate the weighted average per unit on the 28th of February. Okay? Let's go through all of the questions and then we'll start answering them. The next one says, calculate the value of the inventory on hand on the 28th of February. Okay? And it also says, round off to the nearest rand. Okay. The next part of the question says, draw up the trading account. Do you see? And this is important, guys, especially for your exams. Remember, when you are given your question paper, in accounting, you also receive an answer book. That's right. And in your answer book, you have a clear indication of what you are expected to answer. So in that 10 minutes that you are given for reading time, make sure you use it effectively. Look at your answer book and you will clearly see, and yes, so this is what is required, this is what is expected of me. All this information in your answer book. So guys, make use of the 10 minutes that you are given to read your question paper and go through your answer book. Okay, carrying on here. You are also asked a theory question on regarding the stock valuation method in order to change it or not to change it. We'll get to that question. And the last one, the first one that says we're going to be working with here is, it says here, calculate the value of the inventory on hand on the 28th of February by using the FIFO inventory method, a different method of stock valuation, right? And then finally, the last question that you have there is, would it be ethical for Nikita to change the inventory valuation system? An ethics question. Notice the integration in your question. And then it also asks you a question here, which of the inventory systems provides better internal control? Now notice, within one question, there's inventory valuation, there's internal control, there's ethics. So you can't learn in boxes. You can't learn accounting in separate compartments. Internal control can feature in any one of your questions. As you can clearly see, it's featuring in this question. And then you have a question here that says, what does GAAP suggest in respect of stock valuation? Accounting concepts, GAAP is brought into this section as well. What I want you to realize from this particular question is that you have to know all your work in accounting. And yes, you will get integration across the curriculum with different sections being tested at different times. Okay, so what are we going to do now? We're going to go right into the question. Here's my information. Here's my information regarding the shoes that I have bought, right? Watch, it gives you exact detail as to what you will require. In other words, you can clearly see that this is my opening stock. This is my purchases for the year. There's my closing stock. And there's my sales. So all this information is provided to you. Okay, and what is important for you to realize is that given in this table will be the information that we will be using. Okay, so therefore, let us go right into the question. The first question says, what does the question say? It says here, calculate the weighted average value per unit on the 28th of February. Okay, now, When it comes to weighted average, what do I require? I need to take in, when I'm dealing with weighted average, I need to consider all the stock that I have bought for the year. Right. The first thing that I look for is my opening stock. The value of my opening stock is 29,000. Therefore, start off with the 29,000 as your first component. Let's erase that. 29,000 was my opening stock. Okay? To it, I've got to add. What must I add? I must add my purchases for the year. Look at my table. I'm looking for the purchases for the year. In other words, what's the value of shoes that I bought the entire year? Watch. There's my purchases. And my total purchases, the value is 573,500. Can you see that? It is not necessary for you to add that up because that answer is given to you. 573,500. That's the value of goods that were bought during the year. Okay. 573,500. Let's pick that up. $573,500. Okay. Going back. That was the value of the goods that I had purchased. Is that all? Are there any other expenses that I need to bring in? Think about it. Certainly there is. What am I told? I'm told here that the shoes that were bought on the 18th of November, these here, where's the 18th of November? Here's my 18th of November. There's my 18th of November. What about those shoes? Something specific about them. These shoes had a certain charge attached to them. What was the charge? I had import duties on those shoes to the value of 15,000 rand. So clearly you can see that I need to bring in that expense as well. Okay, so add the 15,000 plus the 15,000 . While I'm talking about the expense on the import duties, remember that there may be other expenses as well on purchases. Like what? Like customs duties, carriage on purchases, railage inwards. Now at this point, let me make you aware of something very important in this section. Namely, carriage on sales. This particular question doesn't have anything on carriage on sales. But remember, the moment you find carriage on sales dealing with inventory valuation, specifically periodic inventory, I urge you, I appeal to you, put a line through it. Why? Because it is not an expense that affects the cost price of my goods. In other words, the moment you find carriage on sales, it's given to you as a red herring. It's there to catch you. It will not impact on the cost of my goods that I'm selling. So the moment you see carriage on sales, guys, matriculants, leave it out. It will not impact. Okay, so there I have my components. What do I have? I've got my opening stock. I've got my purchases, and I've got my import duties. Right, what do? I add. Let's add our figures. It's the 29,000 plus 573,500 plus my 15,000. Okay, and that is equal to 617,500. 617,500. So that's the total value of the goods that I had bought during the year. Remember, I'm working with weighted average. What do I want to know now? I want to know what is the weighted average per unit. A single pair of shoes. What's the weighted average on one pair? What do I have to divide that by? Come on, I'm sure you know the answer. That's right, the number of shoes that I have purchased. Let's go and find it. Watch. I had, at the beginning of the year, 145 units. Do you see that? Plus, I purchased a further 2,000 units. So in other words, the total number of units is 2,145. 2,145. What is that, guys? That's the number, the actual number of units of shoes that I have purchased this year. And what do we now do? We take the 617,500, divide it by 2,145, and your answer is, watch, 287,87. What did the question say? The question said, round off to the nearest rand. So in other words, this becomes 288. That's right. So here, my answer here is R288 would be the average of one pair of shoe. Okay, so what have I done? What do I remember when I'm working with weighted average? Start with your opening stock, add your purchases to it, add any other expenses that you may have. Once you've added all of that, divide it by the number of units, and therefore your weighted average per unit is 288 Rand. Not difficult, isn't it? Come on, you can do it. All right.
I think we should go for a little ad break, huh?
Certainly, no problem.
All right, so mindsetters, you know the drill. Make sure you watch out during the ad breaks. The challenge question will be posted. Well, no, we'll be playing. But also make sure that now what I've actually done is that made sure that the challenge question is now available on the main page as well. So guys, you can also enter as many times as you want, but do not forget the code. Always put the code. Enter as many times as you want, but do not forget the code. Otherwise, you're not eligible to win these awesome, awesome prizes. So, make sure you get posting. But for now, we're going to see you after this break. And welcome back, Mindsetters. Hope you had a nice little break there. And you know what I always say, I hope you went and did whatever you had to do. You went to the bathroom, you went to go get whatever you had to do. Now you're back, you're focused, you have your pens, pads out, and you're going to make notes. And do not forget to post. But don't forget also to also write us your questions. If you're lost in it, if you need help, post. So, yeah, I'm just saying, like, these awesome prizes that I'm trying to give away, you know, like, I wanted them for myself, but they were like, no, you kind of have to give them to Mindsetters. So I was like, no, that's cool with me. So, Mindsetters, I want to give you these CD hampers, so make sure you post those answers. But for now, this is where we continue with the rest of the show. So, Ashraf, take it away.
Thanks, Ty. And remember, guys, now we want your mind, your body, and your soul. That's right. We want total attention because it's about understanding what we are doing. And that is important. Okay, next part of the question. What does it say? It says here, calculate the value, guys. Remember, when they're talking about value, the rand value of the inventory on hand on the 28th of February, round off to the nearest rand once again. In other words, what do they want now? You've worked out the unit value. Can you recall from the previous question? Yes, it was 288 Rand. So immediately, the moment you use 288, now, this is important. And this concept is something that you need to understand. Let's assume, for whatever reason, you had made an error in the previous question, in 2.1, and you've worked out some other figure, the moment you use that figure, you will notice when this is marked, it will be marked as a method mark. In other words, we don't want you to fail accounting. We want you to pass. So we can't double penalize you. So what do? Whatever answer you've calculated, the moment you use that answer in this calculation, you immediately receive a method mark. Got it, guys? Okay. So the correct answer is 288. We'll stick with the correct answer. Multiply that by what? The number of units on hand. And what is the number of units on hand? Let's find out the number of units on hand. Here goes. Your closing stock is 145 units. So that's the number of shoes that you have on hand. And therefore, times 145 let's just get that out of the way. Okay, let's start all over then. 288 times 145, okay, and 288 times 145, and my answer is 41,760. Okay, 41,000. Ty? Just check out what's happening with our calculator here.
Okay. Oh, what we basically need to do is just close that little ink layer in the corner and
now
finger for the calculator.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's get back to our calculator to get our figure. 41,760. 41,760. There's the value of my stock. What did I do? Once again, I took the total number of units, which was 145, that one there, and I multiplied it by the value of 288, and that gave me the value of my stock as 41,760. Got that, guys? Brilliant. Let's move on. Let's look at the next question. Okay, now we find the examiner now wants you to draw up the trading account. The trading account in order to do what? To determine the gross profit for the month ended the 28th of February 2011. Now when you are, remember, let's go back. What method of stock, what stock system do we have in place? Weighted average. Okay? That's the valuation method. The stock system we are using is periodic. Now, the moment we are working with periodic, grade 12s, immediately you know that you need to calculate your cost of sales. How are we going to do that? By doing the following. Watch. Number one. Opening stock. Now, you've seen me doing something here. You've seen me using an abbreviation. And to be totally honest with you, I have a license to abbreviate, Ty. Mm-hmm. The grade 12s don't have that licenses yet.
Well, you're a teacher, so.
Exactly, it's a teacher's license. That's right. So now, guys, do not abbreviate. I did this on purpose to illustrate to you guys that you are not allowed to abbreviate in the exams. Okay? So make sure that you write it out in full. For my purposes, like I said, I've got a license and time constraints and whatever else, we will go by the abbreviations, but you do not abbreviate in the exams. Please, grade 12s, you write out everything in full. Okay, opening stock. Let's get to my opening stock value. Remember the opening stock? 29,000. There's your 29,000 opening stock. Immediately you say fine. $29,000. There's my opening stock. So I've got my 29,000 as my opening stock. Number 2, the next item that I need is my purchases. What's the value of goods that I bought? Again, look at your purchases figure. Remember we calculated it. It's this one here that's highlighted in a different color. I've circled it here, 573,500. So immediately I say fine. Go in and put in my purchases. My purchases figure $573,500. Okay, so I've got my opening stock, I've got my purchases. What else would go into the makeup of my cost of sales? What other item would go in? Come on, guys, we've done this in the previous question, so you should be okay with it now. That's right. It's the import duty. Have a look at this here. Do you recall? We paid an import duty of 15,000 Rand. This one here. This 15,000 Rand here. That was the import duty that we had paid. So what do we do with it? We take it and we put it in 15,000 Rand. That's my import duty. Okay, so I brought in those components. What did I bring in? I brought in my opening stock, plus my purchases, plus my import duties. But remember, I am calculating in order to determine the gross profit. That's right. So now what else do I have to bring in? I now have to bring in my sales. That's right. So I put in my sales here. And based on the information that I have, can you see here? My sales figure is given to me. There's my sales. What's the component? What is my sales figure? There's the figure 1,200,000. So clearly you can see you're getting information from the question which we have to use in this segment here, right? Okay, now let's put in the sales figure. Sales was 1,200,000. In other words, grade 12s, you can clearly see that what you need is, when you are drawing up your trading account, dealing specifically with the periodic inventory system, it's all these components that you have to bring in to calculate exactly what the question wants you to calculate. In other words, the gross profit. Am I done here? Do you think I'm done? Is there something else that needs to be done? Certainly there is. What must I bring in? I now have to bring in the closing stock. That's right, the closing stock. And where do you think I'm going to get the closing stock figure from? You don't have to look very far. Why not? Because you calculated your closing stock to be, you recall, 41,760. That's right. That was the value of your closing stock. Therefore, you now bring in the 41,760. And remember that this is your closing stock. Okay. Now, obviously, once again, The same principle applies here, Ty. And that's how we say we're very fair in accounting. If the learner had calculated this figure incorrectly in the previous part of the question,
It's going to throw the whole thing off.
that's right. But we actually mark this as a method mark. In other words, even though it's the incorrect figure, they will still get a mark for that incorrect figure. Because you can't double penalize them in accounting. And that's the reason why we say it's easy to pass accounting, guys. You just need to put in the effort.
Sounds fair. Sounds fair.
Definitely it is. Okay, now, the last part, what do we have to do here? We now have to bring in, we've got the opening stock, we've got our purchases, we've got our import duties, we've got our sales, we've got our closing stock. All that we now need to do is to bring in our figure that we're looking for, namely the gross profit. Here goes. Your profit and loss figure. That is your profit and loss, guys. And this is actually your gross profit figure. And how we're going to do that? Obviously, with our calculator. And what are we going to say? Opening stock of 29,000. Let's move the calculator. Let's start with the side first. It'll make our task easier. Right? It's our sales of 1,200,000. 1,200,123 plus 41,760 is equal to that. Okay? Then we move over this side here and we say, right, minus 29,000 minus 573,500 minus 15,000. Got that? And my answer is 624,260. Pen's playing up with me. 624,260. That's it. What have we done? We have successfully calculated our gross profit for the year, which is 624,260. So clearly, guys, what you can see is that as you progress into the question, you're going to need other answers that you may have calculated, and you're going to use those answers in further parts of the question. All right. Ty?
All right. Think we should take a little ad break?
I think so. What do you say?
All right. I think so too. Mindsetters, we still have the competition open. And I will be letting you know when we'll be closing. And I'm thinking it's going to be pretty soon. So make sure you guys keep entering post so you can win this awesome Mikasa CD with this also the Soul Candy Electro CD and this awesome Sony Music CD with Deep House on it. So make sure you guys keep posting so you can also win these awesome Learn Extra books. This is such a hamper. Like, I want it myself, but you know, I work here, so I can't really But anyway, you can still get it, so make sure you get those posts in. But for now, we'll see you after this break. Welcome back, Mindsetters. Hope you had a nice little break there. You went and did whatever you had to do to get it out the way so that you're now back in front of your laptop and your TV with your phone in hand to make sure that you keep chatting to us on the Facebook page. Let us know. Do not forget, fair enough, you are entering the competition, but let us know if you have any questions regarding this subject matter, because it is important. If you do not ask questions, we can't help you, because there's no such thing as a silly question, because someone else might have that same question. So if you do not ask it, hey, you might as well, you're also putting someone else in a bit of trouble. But anyway, Mindsetters, make sure that you keep on posting, chatting to me, letting me know what you guys think. But for now, this is my hand off and continue the show.
Thanks, Ty.
No problem.
Just to elaborate on what he has said, remember that if you ask the question, it may sound stupid, but definitely some benefit is going to come across to you. I always say, you rather blush now then be pale-faced in the exam and say, why didn't I ask that question? I should have asked it, exactly.
Shoulda,
so
woulda,
guys,
coulda.
come with your questions. Okay, carrying on with our question. The next question that we need to answer here is, we have to calculate the value of the inventory on hand. Okay, let's go back to the question so we have a clear understanding. Number one, it says here that the owner, as Taki, wants to sell her business. Okay, the emphasis on sell. She's approached you as the accountant, and she has requested that you changed the inventory valuation method to the FIFO method to create a higher profit and a higher closing inventory for the business to enable her to sell the business at a much higher price. Okay, we'll come to the second part of the question. Firstly, we are expected to calculate the value of inventory using the FIFO method of valuation. Now listen carefully to this. Grade 12s, when you're working with FIFO, then your emphasis must be bottom up. I'm going to say something now. Sounds funny, but it should remind them in the exams. I said bottom up, not bottoms up. Okay, bottom up. What am I referring to? Watch this here. When you are working with, there you can clearly see, right? And what did I say? I said bottom up. In other words, guys, most important, look at this here. The stock that you bought last, those 100 units there, is the stock that you have left over. Okay? Now, why am I saying bottom up? I'm showing you start at the bottom and work yourself up. That's what I'm saying. You start at the bottom of your table and you work progressively upwards in order to find out the value using FIFO method. So, what's the secret? The secret is bottom up. Okay, got that? Right. So I start off with the 100 units. There's the 100 units. The value of the 100 units is 16,000 Rand. Clear? Okay. So, it's 100 units. 100 units. And the value of the 100 units was 16,000 Rand. Clear? But the 100 units doesn't suffice. It's not enough because I have 145 units left over. Therefore, I go up. Watch. Bottom up. I'm done with the 100. Dealt with. I now go back and say, fine, now I work with this lot of goods here. But I don't have 300. I only need 45 units. So in other words, of these 300 units, I have 45 of those units left over. And immediately now you can see, I cannot use this figure in total. Why? Because that represents 300 units. I only need 45 of those units. Therefore, the unit price is 425, and that's why I say let's get to our page again. Something's playing up here. Let's get back here. Okay, so it's 45 units. 45 units. There's my 45 units. Multiply it by the 45 units are multiplied by, where's the cost price of those units? 425. Oops, it is gone. 425 Okay, and now I pick up my calculator.
Hmm.
425 times 45, it's 19125. Okay?
19125.
That's right. 19125. Okay. But that's not all, guys. Why not? Let's go back here. If we look at this here, we can clearly see that those shoes that were bought on the 18th of November, these here, what about them? They were...
I think it's a bit small. Let's try and
small?
maximize it. There we
better.
go.
There we go. Okay, there's it. We got it. These shoes that were bought, of these 300 units, we also had paid import duties of 15,000 Rand on all those shoes. In other words, what am I now going to do? I'm going to say, take my import duty of 15,000. Watch. Take the 15,000 import duty, divided by the number of units, and the number of units that we had there was 300. So divided by 300, which equals to, that's right, 50 Rand per pair. Now, I need to take that 50 and multiply it by the 45 units that I have left over. And my answer is 2,250. Okay. Therefore, add 2,250, and this would then give me the value of my stock using the FIFO method. Let's check it out. Okay, there goes. It's the 16,000, right? Plus 19125 plus the 2250, and my answer is 37375. 37375. 37375. That's it. Got it? That's the value of my inventory using the FIFO method of stock valuation. Clearly you can see a different amount comes about, obviously because you're using the FIFO method. Right, next question. The owner is of the opinion that if you change the inventory valuation method, you will result in a higher price for her to sell this business. Will it be ethical for Nikita to change the inventory valuation method? Provide 2 reasons to support your answer. Ethics. Definitely, without doubt, your answer here is no. It is not ethical to do that. Why not? Number one, look at the reasons. Look how the examiner expects you to support your answer by giving reasons. And once again, grade 12s, make sure that you use your bullet formation. When it comes to the answering, answer in bullet formation. So you are brief, concise, to the point. First one. You would be misleading the buyer. In other words, if you change your inventory valuation method, you are misleading the buyer because you have not been consistent. You haven't used the FIFO method. So you are dishonest in terms of your presentation. Your figures in your balance sheet are misrepresented. Why? Because you're using a different method of stock valuation. And it's not ethical to do that. Remember, we need to be ethical citizens in South Africa. And that's why I say accounting is so important as a life skill, because it teaches us how to be the model citizen in South Africa. Okay, coming back to accounting. So yes, it would be misleading. So you could state that as one of your reasons. Misleading, you are dishonest, and you can elaborate on that answer. Another possibility. Remember that yes, a business can change its valuation method of stock, but what does it need to do? It needs to get approval. It needs to get permission. From whom? From SARS. Yes, from South African Revenue Services. Why? Because they would not give you permission if you want to change your method of stock valuation simply to inflate the price of the business. Certainly they won't do that. You won't get that permission from SARS. So what we are saying is that, yes, there may be good reasons why you need to change, but then you would have to apply in writing to SARS, get their permission, and then you would be allowed to change your inventory valuation method. Okay, let's move on with the next question. The question says, which of the two inventory valuation systems provides better internal control for your inventory and why? Important question, dealing with internal control. And the question says, which of the two inventory systems, right? They're talking about the stock systems here in terms of valuation, right? Remember, it's the valuation one they're talking of. So, are they talking weighted average? Are they talking FIFO? That's what they're referring to. Now, which of the two would give you better internal control? Remember, if you're looking at better internal control, definitely FIFO is your answer. Why? Because you are specifically, you know exactly, when you're doing a stock valuation, you know exactly that this is the stock that is left over. Remember, in terms of when you are selling your goods as well, you know exactly which goods have been sold. Whereas with weighted average, it becomes difficult to ascertain that one. Okay, and then I think we're on to the last question in this particular section. And the question says, it's always important that when you are reading the question, for you to understand exactly what the question is expecting you, so it gives you an indication of how to answer. Look at this here. What does GAAP, I'm sure you know what that means, suggest in respect of stock valuation? What do they mean when they talk about stock valuation? Okay, now this is quite open-ended. And there are various answers that you could present here. One, let's go through them so you know exactly how to go about doing this in exams. Number one, whenever you are doing a valuation of stock, you need to be consistent. Okay? That's the first thing. It's a GAAP concept. Number two, you need to be prudent. Okay? Remember the prudence concept? And Ty, prudence is not the lady that is sitting next to you in the classroom. Okay?
Yes.
The prudence concept in accounting is where we say we are prudent in our approach. Prudent, to what extent? We are conservative. In other words, if there's a loss in the business, you would immediately realize your loss, but you would not anticipate any future gains. So in other words, grade 12s, look at how the GARP concepts are fitting in here. We spoke about the prudence concept. Right? And what does it say? It says that you must value your stock at the lower of what? Either cost, or if the cost is not sufficient. In other words, if there's another one, let's just get this out of the way. If there's another method here where you find that the price of your stock is lower than the cost price, can that happen? Certainly it can happen. When does it happen? Think of technology. Think of technology. The moment one cell phone hits the market and another one hits the market, a later model, the older model obviously becomes obsolete. People don't want it anymore. So your cost price, you will not even able to recoup your cost price. In that way, you will find that you will have to value your stock at the lower of cost or net realizable value. So whichever is the lower of the two, that's how you will always value your stock. Why? In accordance with the prudence concept. So you could see quite an open-ended question. And as long as your answer makes sense, definitely you will be given the marks in the exams.
All right.
Okay?
Another
How
break.
are we doing so far?
Ooh, the questions are actually coming in, so we're going to make sure we check them out and make sure that we get to them.
Thanks.
But for now, mindsetters, make sure you do not disappear. Keep on posting. The competition is still open, but not for much longer. So let us know. Keep on posting. If you know the answer, post. Remember, don't forget the code. And if you have any questions, post so you get to know the answer. It's pretty simple. But anyway, we're going to see you after this break. Welcome back, mindsetters. I hope you had a nice little break. But right now, what I'm going to tell you is that, look, the competition is literally closing in the next 10 minutes. So yes, literally, you have 10 minutes to make sure that you guys enter so you can win these awesome prizes, this awesome spring school books, and this awesome CE hamper, and this t-shirt. Like, it's so much, I can barely pick it all up. But anyway, make sure that you guys enter. Let us know what you guys are thinking, if you're lost and if you need help. On that note, Ashraf, I think I actually got some questions here.
Yes, certainly. Let's go for it.
Boitoko wanted to find out, would carriages on purchases, import duties, etc., be included in the cost of sales for perpetual inventory systems?
Very good question. Young man, remember when you are doing, young lady, whoever. Okay, young lady, grade 12. Remember that your perpetual inventory system, you do not keep separate accounts for carriage and purchases, for import duties, all of those. When they are paid, you are debiting your trading stock account and crediting your bank. So in other words, there's no separate account like we are using when we are using the periodic inventory method. So yes, definitely those figures would impact directly on your trading stock account.
All right. And now that my microphone's back on, make sure you guys keep on posting. But anyway, we had another one coming from Anshri. She wanted to find out, when using the FIFO method, do we not consider the goods that were returned when calculating closing stock?
Yes, very good question as well. Remember, if the goods are returned to you at the end of your financial year, then definitely those goods are what the goods that you have on hand. So yes, they would be part of when you are working bottoms up. You would start off with whenever those goods were returned. So if they were returned and you have them at the end of the year, certainly they would form part of your FIFO calculation. You would work backwards. In other words, take those goods that were returned because those were the goods that you have on hand and they have been returned. So definitely they would impact on that calculation as well.
All right. I think for now, that's what we have so far.
Okay,
So
great.
I'm going to make sure I remind the mindsetters, now that my microphone's back on, that yes, this is awesome prizes. Make sure that you guys enter. There's 10 minutes left of the competition, so make sure you get those answers in so you can win these awesome hampers from Soul Candy and from Universal Music. So, mindsetters, get to your phones and make sure that you are getting on the page. But for now, this is when we continue with the rest of the show. Asha?
Thank you, Ty. Let's move on, guys. Okay, next one, different question. We are looking at manufacturing. Okay? Whenever you're dealing with a question on manufacturing, what is important for you, if I have to give you a brief introduction into this section, is remember that you need to know what is expected of you. And yes, the basis and the understanding of manufacturing would be to recap your ledger accounts. Because remember, in grade 12, they are asking you to do the production cost statement, which is in fact dependent on your knowledge of your ledger accounts. As you will see just now, how we're going to actually maybe use a ledger account to answer a particular question. Okay, so right into the question now. You are provided with information relating to trendy fashions for the financial year. The business makes dresses for banquets. Yes, important type of business, especially for your lives and the stage of your lives, isn't it? Because that matric banquet, yes, important, but not
so important.
The most important. Yes. Why? Because as far as Ashraf is concerned, the 23rd of October is the accounting banquet. That's when they'll be writing the accounting paper, the final paper. Yes.
Wow.
Okay, so guys, the accounting banquet happens on the 23rd of October. Got it? Brilliant. Okay. Watch. They use the perpetual inventory system for all stocks except in the case of indirect materials where they use the periodic system. Clear? So immediately you can see they're giving you some kind of indication as to what is being used by this business. And the business is owned by Florence Kumalo, so we know who owns the business as well. Number one, the question said, what is required of us? Calculate the direct labor cost for the year. Calculate the factory overhead cost. Calculate the production cost statement. Right? Then it also asks you to calculate the gross profit. It also asks you to calculate the gross profit for the year. Right? It wants you to explain to the owner how to calculate the break-even point. Do not calculate it. Important. And then there's a question here that says, Florence is concerned about the control over certain costs. Direct materials account for more than 40% of the cost of one dress, while direct labor accounts for more than 30%. Florence wants your advice. Provide 2 suggestions on how to improve efficiency in the use of direct materials. Okay, so those are the questions. Got it, guys? We're going to go into answering those questions right now. Here's my information. Information for the year. My stocks on hand at the beginning of the year. There's information for the financial year end, beginning of the year. They are telling you that your raw materials, the fabric for the dresses, were imported during the year from Japan. They're giving you a dollar exchange rate. Okay? They're giving you the customs duties, etc. Information is provided to you. Okay? They're telling you about indirect materials that were bought for cash during the year. Transport costs on these were paid out of petty cash, 400 Rand. So there's a whole lot of information that you're going to require. Okay. Remuneration is as follows. In other words, how are you paying your employees? the 4 direct workers, right? They worked for 160 days during the year. 9 hours per day at 30 Rand per hour. Right? All 4 workers also worked 5 hours overtime on 12 days of the year, and your overtime is paid at normal rate plus 50%. Okay, so now you are expected to do this calculation. In other words, work out how will you work out your direct labor. Let's go to it and see what we have here. Right. If we look at our direct labor, once again, we had 4 workers. Therefore, you start off with your 4 workers. Right? How long did they work? They worked for 160 days. Therefore, let's get that, times 160. We can just move this slightly up. Yes, that's much better. 4 by 160, right? And then what else do we know? They were paid 30 Rand per hour. Times 30. So you can clearly see there's a calculation involved there. They worked for 4 hours at 100. There were 4 workers that worked for 160 times the rate per hour was 30 Rand. Let's do that calculation. So we say 4 times 160 times 30, and my answer there is 19,200. Sorry, Ty, can you just check for me? I just want to check something quickly if I've got all my facts here.
All right, no problem. While you're doing that, what I'll make sure is that mindset is, so you know, your 10 minutes is up. So the competition, unfortunately, is now closed. So guys, as I said, if you didn't enter, hey, you missed out on some great prizes. But guys, do not forget, we're going to be doing this for the entire week. So make sure that you tune in every day. This stuff is so important for you guys. It's nice supervision to make sure that you guys are ready for your exams. So guys, I cannot stress this enough. Mindsetters, make sure you get on the page, talk to each other. So please, please, please do not forget to also tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to make sure that they get on the page so you guys can get these awesome prizes. But for now, this is where we're going to get straight back into the lesson. Asha, take it away.
Thank you, Ty. Yes, guys, look, what's important for us to note is let's go back to the question and let's just see if we have all the information. We said 4 workers, right? Okay, let's see if we have the 4 workers there. That's fine. They worked for 160 days during the year. Let's go back. There's the 160. Then we also see that they worked for 9 hours per day. Remember, you have to include that in your calculation. Times 9. Okay? And now, let's do our calculation and see what we come up with. Okay, so we've got the 4 times the 160 times 30 times 9. 172,800. And that is the amount we're looking for. 172,800. Okay, remember, that only refers to normal time. Okay, we now have to work with the overtime. Let's go to the overtime component of this question. Okay, dokes. Let's see if we can get to that part of the question.
I think the board is having a bit of its moments.
Yes, it's going
I think
great.
what we'll do is we'll have a little quick ad break and make sure that we come back, and I will be announcing the winners soon, and we'll be going through that challenge question, so mindsetters, do not disappear. For now, see you after this ad break. And welcome back, Mindsetters. Hope you had a nice little break there. You went and did whatever you had to do. Now you're back, you're ready, you're paying attention. You've got your pens, pads out, and you're going to make notes with your phone. Also, so you can post up on the page. Let us know what you're thinking, if you're lost and if you need help. Whew, that was a lot. But yes, right now, actually, as I said before, the competition is now closed. So you guys cannot enter anymore, unfortunately. So what we're actually going to do now is put you out your misery and work out the challenge questions so you guys know what the answer is. Then we're going to gather everyone's answers, and then we're going to find our winner. So, Ashraf, let's tackle that challenge question.
All right, let's go on to the challenge question, guys. Let's see what they want from us. Which method of stock valuation, which method of stock valuation requires you to base your calculations on the value of the most recent stock? Come on, guys. Bottom up. What method is that? The most recent stock. In other words, look at the item that you bought last. And from there, you work yourself up. Which method of stock valuation is that? Come on. Yes. Take them out of their misery. B is your correct answer. FIFO works with the last items that you have purchased. In other words, the older stock that has been sold is gone already. Therefore, you're working with the FIFO method, and that's your correct answer.
Alrighty. So what we're now going to do is we're going to go and find everyone who posted it, and then we're going to sift through them, me and my producers, and we're going to find out who won the actual prize. But for now, I think we can continue with the rest of the show.
Thank you very much. Let's move on, guys. Okay, remember, we're now calculating, just a recap, so that we know where we are. We're working with the direct labor. The normal time was 4 workers that worked for 160 hours, 9 hours per day, at 30 Rand per day. That's the value of the normal time wages of those that are directly involved in the manufacturing of our item. Please, guys, when we're talking direct labor, we are talking to those people that are actually making the product. The machinist, whatever production process we may be working with, people that are involved in making the product. Keep that at the back of your minds at all time. Okay, now, the overtime. What was the overtime story? Let's look at it. All 4 workers also worked 5 hours. So let's go there. All 4 workers also worked. What did they work for? Worked 5 hours overtime. So let's slot them in. 5 hours of overtime times 12, right? Because we are told there that they worked on 12 days. And important, overtime is paid at a normal rate plus 50%. That's what it is. Plus the 50%. Okay. So, if the normal rate was 30 Rand per hour, your overtime is plus 50%. If you add 50% of the 30, will be 15 Rand. So 45 Rand is the amount that we are looking for. Let's do our calculation. We've got 4 times 5 times 12 times 45. And my answer is 10,800. Let's put in the answer there for you. 10,800. Let's add this together. It's 10,800, which we have on our calculator, plus 172,800, 183,600, 183,600. That's the value of my direct labor. So obviously you can see that having done this, you're going to be using this figure when you are calculating your production cost statement. Let's go on to the next part of the question. What do we now require? We are now required to calculate the factory overheads cost account. Let us start off with the indirect materials. Right. Now, what is it that you need for your indirect materials? Let's get the information regarding our indirect materials. We'll start off with the first part that we need, the stocks on hand at the beginning of the year. My stock on hand at the beginning of the year, my indirect material stock figure is 14,800. So that's the value of my indirect materials at the beginning of the year. Does it ring a bell what we're doing here? Certainly it does, because they told us indirect material was done on the periodic system. So obviously the question that we did earlier on ties in with this question as well. So 14,800. I'm just going to do the calculation here. Okay, let's do it alongside it so you can see it. Open my bracket. 14,800. Okay, next. What information do I have regarding my indirect materials? Indirect materials were bought for cash during the year 25,200. Okay, so immediately we say fine, add plus $14,800. It's playing up again, 14,800. Let me put in a plus sign there for you. Different color pen. Let's get the value we're looking for. Year 25,200. 25,200. Okay, we got it. So we got our opening stock of indirect materials plus what we bought for 25,200. Okay, and you are also told that you paid transport cost. You paid transport costs on these, were paid out of petty cash, 400 Rand. You have to bring in that component. Therefore, we add the 400 plus 400. Okay? So I've got my opening stock, I've got my purchases, right? And I've got the expense on the purchases. What must I bring in? My closing stock. That's right. Let's go to the closing stock. What was the value of my stock? Here it goes. Your stock on hand, indirect material stock, 13,200. So therefore, minus 13,200. Okay, now watch. Watch what I've done. And I've specifically done this one here so that you can see why I did this in this particular way. Early on in the show, we said, show all calculations. Notice, I've done a calculation for you alongside indirect materials. Reason, so that in the event of you getting your final answer wrong, hope that would happen, but if that perchance it happens, you will get part marks for what you do alongside your indirect materials. Okay, so let's get our figures here. Let's take it along this side here. Okay, we've got 14,800 plus 25,200 plus 400 minus 13,200 is equal to 27,200. 27,000. Okay. 27,200. So you can clearly see here now, grade 12s, how important it is to do this entire calculation. Right. Unfortunately, time and tide waits for no man. We have come to the end of our show. My appeal to you is, carry on with this question by yourself. I'm sure it's available on our website, wherever they can get hold of it.
It is available on the links. We've got links that I'm going to be posting up. So mindsetters need to make sure that they check the page.
They need to go there and complete this question. From me, Ashraf, you know, guys, what I always say at the end of my show is aim for the moon. Because if you don't get there, definitely you will be a shining star. And accounting, shining star.
That's a good one to keep by.
Thanks, Ty.
So
over to you.
Thank you. So, mindsetters, I just want to say, you know what? We're going to be giving away this stuff every day for the rest of the week. So make sure you guys keep on posting. I'm going to put up the links. So there's multiple ways you can enter. And an example of how you can enter and win is Kashifa Gato, who actually won this an awesome prize. I want to say congratulations to Kashifa. Congratulations, you're going to get this awesome CD hamper and these spring books. So look out for that in your mail. So mindsetters, she also entered not only on the Facebook page, but via email and SMS. So to triple your chances, even quadruple your chances, make sure you enter on multiple platforms. But for me, as Ty, this is where I then say thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Cheers and take care.